everyone, it's Raina. So this video is if you have your sun in Capricorn and Aries rising. Wow, what a combination. So we're talking about earth and fire. Now when you think about that, what does that say to you? Does it seem like it's harmonious? Well, we can say that earth and fire is very, very different in terms of how they express themselves, what kinds of things um, are meaningful to them. And these two signs actually square off. They are both cardinal signs, but when we're talking about a square, they have to be within a certain degree span or orb in order to be officially a square. A square is a challenging aspect that gives off friction. So it can make the person frustrated. And in this case, when we look at what these two points, because the rising sign isn't a planet, but what they bring to each other, that friction, that irritation, when they come together like that, it is the person's image, which is the rising sign, and their aspirations, the sun sign. When a person gets older, I believe that they will embody more of the sun sign. And this is the year after the age of 30, we might see that this is more of the case. Obviously, this is going to depend on the individual. You have other influences like the moon and the other inner planets that can certainly tip the scales in one direction or the other. For instance, if you have Earth, maybe Mercury in Capricorn, and for the sun sign of Capricorn, you may have Mars and Pisces. You may have more subdued influences, but you could certainly have Sag inner planets, and that would really enhance the Aries rising. But I would say that whenever you have fire sign as the ascendant and you have earth or water as a sun sign, that fire is going to overpower the sun. So the person is, even though, this is always the case for the rising sign is that persona or the image that you present to others. You may not be deliberately trying to project a certain image, it's just naturally coming out like that, because it can also involve the appearance, the way you choose to dress and express yourself. You're really a Capricorn. You're really more of that serious type of person. The Aries energy is much more boisterous. It's much more, rowdy, like a bull in a china shop. And there's like a rough around the edges quality. And I think that's where that hard angle irritation factor comes in, because Capricorn wants to I was going to say Capricorn wants to fit in, but it's really more about ascend, the rungs of the ladder of society and of their career of choice. And they want to appear to be acceptable to society. They don't want to be some kind of like a ruffian, some kind of like a unrefined type of person. And yet with Aries rising, there's always going to be that unruly quality, because Aries is fire, and fire is rebellious. If you think of somebody like Marlon Brando, which of course a lot of younger people may have never seen one of his movies, but he had this kind of, he was a sun and moon in Aries, and he had this like kind of a very raw kind of demeanor. The rising sign can give off that kind of raw quality, but it's also very energetic, and it really comes across like somebody who can make things happen. And especially in your professional life, this quality can be quite positive because you just have this natural desire to do things. It's like being a go-getter. And people can see that. The cardinal modality, uh, so we've got Aries, Capricorn, but there's also Libra and Cancer, are signs that are self-starters. And what that means is that whether you're working for yourself or you're working for somebody else, you always have something that you can do. You're not sitting around waiting for other people to direct you. You are self-directed. I'm kind of smiling to myself because I have a lot of mutable energy. And I've always been of the belief that if you work for somebody else, it's their job to tell you what to do. And I'm thinking about this one job where I was sitting there, and I think that the boss might have even made a comment about, hey, you could do this, you could empty out the waste basket, or you could do this. And I just kind of like, I wasn't really that of the belief that that was because to me that was like a job in itself, trying to think up what to do. And I felt like, okay, well, give your employees directions. But coming from that mentality, probably that boss thought in the way that is like an Aries type of person, where it's like, hey, look for things to do and then do them. And it's coming from an independent mentality. And I don't know, I just thought that was kind of funny because that's not how I think sometimes. I feel like an independent person, but I don't necessarily think that that's appropriate in all situations. But you definitely are like that, and that can almost guarantee success for you, I feel like. The only thing that can trip you up is having kind of a volatility about yourself. Even though we're not talking about the moon position, and definitely check out your moon position to see what your emotional nature is. There's always like an impulsive quality of Aries and a potential hot-headed reaction to life because the emotions are spontaneous. And fire is emotional in its own way, not in an emo kind of personal, sob stories that we associate with the water signs, but just kind of that, getting angry at the thought of something, the idea of something. And therefore, reacting, fire signs can be quite reactive, but Aries takes it to a whole new level. So that's one of the things that you have to really guard against, because you could be your own worst enemy if you allow that to go too far. My feeling is that the rising sign will be prominent until the first Saturn return around the age of 30, and therefore, and I also believe that the rising sign, if it clashes or if it's way different than the sun sign, that person may have been a black sheep of the family or otherwise misunderstood, and therefore they develop a certain defense mechanism or coping mechanism that is connected to their family unit that allows them to participate in the family. So when Aries is rising, the person may be rebelling, or the bully, something to do with those kinds of qualities because they're being bullied by a parent, perhaps, or they, I think that can be a lot of times what's going on. I think the bully at school is often being bullied at home. And Aries sometimes, and this can be, the rising sign as well as the sun or moon, can really come across as angry because Aries is ruled by Mars, and Mars is the god of war, and it can express the way that we handle anger. So Capricorn who has Aries rising is ruled by Mars because the ascendant determines the ruler of the chart. So, one of the main qualities of somebody like this to me is the person who has a chip on their shoulder. So, if we think of that Capricorn individual as going from rags to riches, as maybe having a humble upbringing but aspiring to success and high society, they may be resentful of the very people that they want to be, be become a part of, that crowd, because they feel like some people were born into wealth, or they're privileged in some way. And the the truth about that is they probably feel insecure and they feel like they need to prove themselves, but they can't admit that. Maybe their ego won't let them admit that. Aries wants to be number one. And so when you're a child, you may have been, and also is very competitive too. So you might have been one of those kids who, if you're playing checkers and you lost, you turned over the board and stomped off. Sometimes, like I said, when I was talking about being a bully, it could be having fights on the playground. It could be always going to the principal's office. And it's like, because Mars is the god of war, this child may feel like life is a battle that they constantly have to fight. As you get older, you grow into that more mature type of Capricorn, that sober Capricorn individual, but you may always have a little bit of rebel in you because, Capricorn is very traditional, conservative, and Aries tends to be progressive and rebellious. So there's another reason why they clash. And you may be fighting yourself, fighting that part of you that even wants to fit into a society that you may have deemed is unfair, is backwards, not progressive enough. And, Aries is the pioneer, so you have that spirit within yourself. In terms of the kinds of, it's interesting, definitely leave a comment about some of the things I'm saying, because I'm curious if you resonate with it. Because I would say, in terms of like the dress of somebody with this combination, I think of Capricorn people as wearing business attire. Even, when they are relaxing, they may prefer to wear more structured clothing. And maybe wearing sweatpants is just never something that you would be caught in public with, even if it was a weekend or something along those lines. But Aries, but that's not where dressing comes from, at least not in the first part of life. It's going to be more of that Aries, because that is the rising sign, and that determines the dress for at least probably the first third of your life. And it could be the Aries style, being a fire sign, is more rough and tumble, adventurous. So you could say like sportswear, hiking shorts, boots, even for women, kind of tomboy type of attire. Anything that is, because Aries is a masculine sign, so even the females may prefer wearing pants to skirts, and also wearing the kind of clothing that you would wear if you were climbing a mountain, which, that's what Capricorn is, the mountain goat. So that might appeal to both of those signs. But it's definitely, I'll have to check, some of my books to see what other astrologers say about Aries attire. Because, the one thing that Aries people really like to do is wear hats, because Aries rules the head. So you might be a Capricorn person who has like a reputation for having a nice collection of hats. Maybe you have one for every occasion. And I'm trying to think of somebody famous who's like that. But even if they're famous, they may not have Aries rising. So, but even an Aries sun sign. Oh well. I think this combination can be quite versatile, because your calling card as your rising sign can give you a certain pizzazz that maybe a Capricorn person wouldn't normally have. And that's not putting down Capricorn, because um, fire energy can be quite draining. Sometimes when people are very extroverted, they're demanding, they take out all the oxygen out of the room, and they kind of demand that all eyes are on them, and things like that. And but there's a kind of a comforting aura with somebody like a Capricorn, because you feel like you're in good hands. You feel like the person knows their stuff, and they take what they do seriously. Sometimes with Aries, there's a sloppiness, a inattention to details. And that could be the difference between failure and success with something, because obviously you have to be very thorough. But that just goes along with what I'm saying about, as you get older, that you will gravitate towards the influences and probably make peace with some of your more rebellious tendencies as you get older. Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, and that is Father Time. And so time is your friend. And you will likely mellow out with age. But it's not, even though this is a hard angle, it can also spur a person on to success, because they have some kind of friction to give them this goal, this obstacle that they want to, I was going to say like a hurdle to jump over, and a problem to solve. And sometimes when people have things drop in their lap, they don't appreciate it. So by no means am I saying that this is a difficult combination to achieve success. I think that you have the right stuff. I think that it's mostly that you may be misunderstood by others. They may see too much that Aries energy out in front as a calling card, and getting the wrong impression about you. But you have the ability to rein things in, and be more of that sober Capricorn when you need to be, but by the same token, lightening things up sometimes because Capricorn can get too serious. So it might be a blessing in disguise to have fire energy at the ascendant to give a little bit of pizzazz, because people tend to pay attention to flash. You may enjoy bright colors as a result rather than the drab, neutral colors that Capricorns prefer. In love, you may attract fire signs or possibly air signs, the two masculine elements, and yet you may not ultimately be on the same page with them because it depends, what your Venus and Mars, which are the divine lovers, are in. Maybe they're in Sag, maybe they're in Aquarius, and you would have more in common with either element of fire or air. But since Capricorn is very traditional, family oriented, you may find that these signs tend to be less interested in home life. They're not homebodies. Even if they end up having a family, they may want to be less tied to the home, or they may decide to settle down at a later age than you want to settle down. And so you have to choose carefully, because there may be a pattern of attracting the kind of people that don't really suit you, and you think that you have to be with one of them. Or you may be attracted to people that are not suitable for you too. It could work both ways. So I think that this combination could be great for a parent, because you may still have that inner child that likes to come out to play, and yet you can be a responsible adult at the same time. Okay, that's what I have for you. I hope that you enjoyed this. If you would like a private reading, the link is below. Take care. Bye.